Welcome to the Museum of African American Art. I am the museum's executive director, Keisha Dumas-Heath, and it is our pleasure to have you joining us for this virtual event with the Museum of African American Art and the United States Postal Service, together celebrating renowned sculptor Ebonia Lewis. This event is being held in honor of the 45th Black Heritage Stamp, the museum's 45th anniversary, and Women's History Month. Thank you for being here. In December, the Museum of African American Art reached the milestone of 45 years, educating people of all ages and identities about the arts through the lens of African American culture. We are a landmark nonprofit museum that has been stationed at the intersection of art and community for 4.5 decades, and we are here because of you. Today, we are honored to join the Postal Service in celebrating the 45th stamp in the Black Heritage Series, featuring sculptor Ebonia Lewis. This is the 45th stamp in the Black Heritage Series, and the museum is commemorating its 45th year. So Black Heritage stamps have been around just as long as the Museum of African American Art. What that tells us is that the Postal Service has shown leadership in elevating Black excellence through its stamps long before other sectors realized that we matter. So, we want to acknowledge the Postal Service for that legacy. As far as we know, there has not previously been a U.S. postage stamp honoring an African American woman for her work as a visual artist. So when we heard about this new Black Heritage stamp featuring sculptor Ebonia Lewis, we knew that we wanted to celebrate the stamp and honor her life here at the Museum of African American Art during Women's History Month. The Museum of African American Art was founded with the idea that art can and should be part of our everyday lives. When we think about postage stamps, it doesn't get much more everyday than that, right? Sending and receiving mail. And yet, in this very everyday way, the newly issued Ebonia Lewis stamp in the Black Heritage Series gives us all honor, makes us present, and reaffirms that we do indeed matter as women, as people of color, and as artists. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Sean Andrews, the plant manager for the Los Angeles Network Distribution Center, who will conduct today's stamp unveiling and dedication ceremony on behalf of the United States Postal Service. Sean?
Thank you, Keisha. I'm Sean Andrews, plant manager of the Los Angeles Network Distribution Center, and I'm happy to be here on behalf of the United States Postal Service to present the 45th Black Heritage Forever Stamp honoring Ebonia Lewis. Ebonia Lewis was celebrated during her lifetime, but I think it's fair to say that most Americans of today probably do not know the name of this brilliant 19th century sculptor. We hope today that will change. One of the most important goals of our stamp program is to raise awareness and celebrate people, places, and things that represent the very best of our nature and are the very best of us. And that's why I'm proud of the Postal Service annual Black Heritage Stamps, which shine a spotlight on distinguished African Americans and our educational, scientific, and artistic contributions to the nation. Ebonia had to overcome many difficult challenges due to widespread prejudice and discrimination based on her gender, race, and class. While some details of her childhood are uncertain, we know Lewis was born in the early 1840s. Her mother belonged to a Native American tribe in upstate New York, and it's believed that her father was from Haiti. She was orphaned at a young age and raised by members of her mother's family and her tribe near Niagara Falls. We also know that her half-brother Samuel appears to have funded her education, which was doubly unusual for the time, for neither women nor persons of color had such opportunities in the 1800s. She first attended New York Central College, a Baptist abolitionist school, followed by studies at Oberlin College in Ohio. After Oberlin, Ebonia relocated to Boston, where she studied with sculptor Edward Brackett, an abolitionist best known for his sculpture of John Brown. By age 20, she was sculpting in clay, plaster, marble, and creating medallions and portraits and busts of Abraham Lincoln, abolitionist John Brown, and Robert Gould Shaw, the Union Army officer who led one of the first African American regiments during the Civil War. Sales of her works earned enough by 1866 to finance her move to Rome, where she opened her own studio. As she would later explain to the New York Times, quote, "I've practically driven to Rome in order to obtain the opportunities for art culture and to find social atmosphere where I was not consistently reminded of my color." Lewis was among the first black sculptors to achieve widespread acclaim. Even so, she remained frustrated by the intense focus on her race. She famously said, quote, "Some praise me because I am a colored girl, and I don't want that kind of praise. I had rather you point out my defects, but that will teach me something." Her pieces would often explore the theme of emancipation and all its hopes and limitations. One noteworthy example, Forever Free, depicted a standing man and a kneeling woman, celebrating their release from slavery. Other famous works were inspired by poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who visited Rome in the late 1860s. One example, Old Arrowmaker, was based on the Longfellow epic poem, The Song of Hiawatha. Now, Lewis may have been drawn to the character of Hiawatha because she was from the Ojibwe tribe, like her mother, and the coming together of the Ojibwe and Dakota tribes after years of war, as described in his poem, symbolized both hope and reconciliation. Ebonia Lewis enjoyed great success in Rome, where her sculptures were selling for thousands of dollars. But it was for the United States Centennial in 1876 that she created her greatest neoclassical masterpiece, The Death of Cleopatra, made of more than 3,000 pounds of Carrara marble. The realistic depiction of the Egyptian queen at the time of her death was seen as a statement of dignity, power, and resistance. While somewhat controversial at the time, critics described The Death of Cleopatra as the most impressive American sculpture at the Centennial. Unfortunately, not long after its debut, this monumental work disappeared and was presumed lost for nearly a century. It has been restored by the Smithsonian and is on display now for everyone to enjoy at the American Art Museum in Washington, D.C. Now on to the stamp itself. The incredible stamp artwork is a portrait of Ebonia by New York artist Alex Basti, based on a photograph by Augustus Marshall taken between 1864 and 1871. Because it's a forever stamp, it will always be equal in value to the current first-class 1-ounce melt price, which means it will always be perfect for your cards and your letters, and it will always depict the brilliance of artist Ebonia Lewis. The stamp is available online at USPS.com and post offices nationwide. And now, on behalf of 650,000 women and men of the United States Postal Service, I am pleased to present this year's Black Heritage Stamp honoring Ebonia Lewis. Keisha, would you join me?
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for attending this virtual stamp unveiling dedication ceremony with the United States Postal Service. We invite you to please stay with us right here on this same online platform for a very special virtual art history presentation about the life and art of Ebonia Lewis, which will begin in just a few minutes. Also, tomorrow, Saturday, March 19th, from 12 noon to 5 p.m., the Postal Service will have the new Ebonia Lewis stamps and related memorabilia, as well as other Black Heritage stamps available for you to purchase in person at the museum. We are hearing that the Ebonia Lewis stamps may be hard to find at your local post office because supply is limited. So don't miss this opportunity to buy your Ebonia Lewis stamps from the Postal Service at the museum on Saturday. Thanks again, Sean.
It was an honor.